show me how he works, okay?
Hi, I'm Andy. What's your name? Hi, I'm Chucky, and I'm your friend to the end. Heidi-ho.
Wow, he's something, isn't he?
I think I mentioned on when we talked on Sunday. There's a POV film called Grave Encounters, and it's done by the people who do a show called Ghost Adventures. It's sort of like the America's version of Most Haunted, and that is the quintessential ghosts with mouths that drop and just go.
Yeah,
and they're still filming. They're still filming. Why are you still filming?
Vic and I did start watching this quite recently, I think.
It's a load of bollocks.
Yeah, I don't remember bothering to see it through to the end.
Yeah, it's not worth it. It is quite a. I wouldn't say it's a very populated genre. I mean, there's probably quite a lot of what I like to call bargain bin Amazon Prime POV films.
I mean, they're cheap to make. They're cheap to make, but they can come across as looking and feeling incredibly cheap to make as well. The trick is to do it well enough that it feels more than, you know, the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
Like anybody, literally anybody can get a decent camera. Well, not even necessarily a decent camera. I mean, I'm sure there'll be ones that are filmed on smartphones.
Oh God, yeah.
But you know, it needs to be believable enough and set up well enough that it's not clearly just a bunch of film students running around an abandoned hospital or whatever.
Exactly it. Well, it's like I was saying about the VHS 2 segment, the guy who got the augmented eye implanted in his face. There's not really many ways you could do a POV, like different concepts you could do a POV film. It has to be something that could record footage, and there's only few things in the world, technology-wise, that can record footage. A phone with a camera, or a video camera, or I don't know, fancy glasses, or a GoPro. There's not much really.
No. But it's the reason for the filming. The reason for the filming is the main hook, and that's got to be believable. Otherwise, it's going to fall down very quickly, because that's the first question people ask is, why are you sitting around filming this?
Exactly.
So as long as you've got a good enough, and even then, you know, all the ideas have been done. Sure, well, they can't have been, but you know what I mean. It feels like there's not much more of that vein left to tap.
Yeah, it feels like we've kind of come to the end of all the real good ideas of a POV film. And now I think about it, I just thought there are actually a few VHS short films that are POV style. The first one in the first film is a young guy who goes out with his friends to pool, and they've rigged him up some glasses with a little optical.
Yeah, he's in a motel room.
Yeah, the Succubus.
Is that the one?
Yeah.
That's good. There are even in some of the later installments, there are some good shorts in the VHS series. But
there's the zombie biker, the cyclist who he's riding in the woods, and then I think there's a zombie outbreak. He gets bitten.
That's in the second one.
Yeah, you're still in the POV vision of the zombie, which is quite cool. That's a new take. That's cool.
Yeah, I see. You know, that's what it needs. It's just, you need that good solid hook as to why there's a camera rolling covering this.
Speaking of camera rolling, Aidan, this is something I actually normally do to T. I don't tell him when we've started recording, so I've been recording for a good few minutes now. So, but it's a good segue there. Welcome back to the Dreadcast, one and all. It's episode 31, I think, and as you can tell, video viewers, we have a special guest host today, and maybe next week, and potentially a few weeks after. This is the lovely Aidan, half troll. You can find him on Twitter. His social links will be beneath him in his. No, he's there to me now. All beneath him, so go check him out. He's a fantastic streamer, fantastic guy all around. Hello, Aidan.
And absolutely thrilled to be here. Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, as you say, I'm doing a little bit of supply
teacher.
Filling in, covering some paternity leave.
You are indeed. But you're also a big horror nerd, so that's why I was like, you have to do this. You'll be great.
Yeah, I mean, well, long-time fan of the podcast. I think I've just about caught up on all the previous episodes now.
It's good to have the one long-time fan on the show. So, it's always, just to prove to people that there's at least one person listening.
There is at least one listener.
So you yourself will be listening back to this, going, "Oh, he was great. He was great."
Yeah, probably. More than likely. Cringing.
Today's film you picked. I gave you the choice. You picked it, and it's actually one that T would probably like to do. But whatever. It's your film. You picked it, so we'll be doing Child's Play.
Yes, Child's Play, 1988, the original.
What made you pick it?
A couple of reasons. First and foremost, it is the first horror film I saw.
No way.
Yeah, definitely the first I saw in its entirety. I may have seen fragments, bits and pieces, and also I saw it at a very young age, far too young to have. And it scared the bejesus out of me for a long, long time. So it's got a special place in my heart. It took me a long time to watch it again. Like, I think I was definitely under 10 when I first saw it. I think maybe around 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And I probably didn't watch it again until I was about 17 or 18 because it freaked me the fuck out for a long time. But I love it, and I love the franchise as a whole. I like how it's evolved and kind of recently gone back to its roots. And yeah, Chucky's a big horror icon. And like I say, yeah. But the main reason is it has got that extra little polish for me as being the first horror film I saw and one of the ones that scared me the most for a long time. So
it's interesting you say like you were really scared by it because on my notes which I got here, I all the notes I took when I was watching the film. Whenever I do this, I then put them on my computer and then I try to categorize my notes into different like categories rather than like I told you we stopped doing the whole let's talk about this shot then this shot. It took too long. But one of the categories I put was scare factor because the idea of this film never really scared me. And I was trying to think, I guess if you were, maybe 10 or younger, I could imagine it being scary. But even rewatching it, I didn't get any scary at all.
I mean, I can see that, and similarly when I'm watching it back myself the other night prior to us recording, it comes across more like a crime thriller, than a straight horror film. And if it wasn't for the obvious supernatural element, it is a little bit more of like not a whodunit necessarily, but more of a gritty crime thriller.
Yeah, for sure.
In a lot of ways, but yeah, I mean, I don't. Again, the funny thing is, I don't remember it scaring me as a child. I remember. In a nutshell, my grandparents were looking after me and my brother while my parents had gone out, and they weren't really. I think my granddad had fallen asleep. My grandma was knitting, so this film came on, and me and my brother just sat there and watched it. And so 95% of it, I think it was one of the final scenes when my parents suddenly turned up, and it was a case of what you doing, get up them stairs.
Yeah.
So off we run, and I don't remember it. I don't remember sitting watching it thinking like this is terrifying, but my mother will tell you that I did not sleep for about a fortnight after the fact, and I know myself that I had a problem with seeing Chucky or being aware of the
doll
character
itself.
yeah. But I
Interesting.
don't remember being scared watching the film. It's a bit of a strange one. It's probably a suppressed
Yeah.
childhood trauma is probably what it is.
Everyone's got that, like those sort of childhood. Everyone as a kid sneakily watched like a horror film we weren't meant to watch. Really,
Yeah.
at the age. And I think, but especially our age, I'd say, because they were on TV and it was when cable came around, easier to watch.
Mhm.
And I think everyone's got those memories that stick with you from those early childhood horror film days. You weren't meant to watch it, made it more exciting. Another thing with the scare factor I put down was that, yeah, it's not scary, and when you hit the nail on the head with the crime thriller, because it is, it kind of is.
Yeah.
I try to put myself in the perspective. I don't find it scary. I try to put myself in the perspective of the characters in the film. So Maggie, quick side note. Anyone that's not seen Child's Play, I mean, spoilers by the way. This whole podcast is going to be about it. Very simple premise. Killer on the loose. Right at the beginning, being chased by a cop, ends up in a toy store. Soul transfers his body to a doll. Doll gets purchased by a mum for her 6-year-old's birthday. And we'll say shenanigans start occurring there. The murders start happening. Kid tries to explain it's the doll, and everyone's like, "Oh, you silly kid! It's not the doll. How can it be the doll?" And so on. So it's basically a doll is on the loose, killing people. Maggie is the mum, Karen's best friend. She's there's one point where she's babysitting Andy, and there's a point where just before she gets killed, there's a point where she kind of thinks there's an intruder in the house, but it's obviously Chucky running around scaring her. So I'm putting myself in her perspective, thinking, yeah, that's a scary moment when if you're alone in the house and you think, oh, there's an intruder in the house, that's a for an adult, that's a scary thing. So yeah, I mean, that's probably one scary moment I could put towards the film, but I mean, I couldn't find many.
I think there are, I'd say there's maybe 3 that spring to mind initially. 3 sort of big horror moments. The babysitter Maggie getting killed is one. I
did laugh when she died, though. I'm afraid.
I mean, it is good.
She literally throws herself out the window.
She does. She does. And the hammer makes such a satisfying noise as well.
Yeah. But the thing with the hammer, the one thing with the hammer, if his soul got transferred into Chucky, his strength must have gone with it, right? Because there must have been the force to whack her in the head with that.
I was thinking about this because it's not something I'd ever considered before. In fact, I think me and Vic actually had a bit of a discussion about it. Because they they take a bit of artistic license with it. I think we've got to assume that he has the strength of at least his human self.
Yeah.
At least his human self, but he doesn't have the equivalent weight. So, because everybody at some point in a Chucky film will pick up Chucky and hurl him across the room,
and Andy can pick him up.
And I mean, Andy's we'll talk about this in a little bit.
Yeah.
But Andy's a badass in this film. For like the kid protagonist, he does not mess about. He's not like shy and retiring and hiding behind the sofa. He gets stuck in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I've always sort of assumed that he has the strength of a grown man, but he's just in a 2 foot, 3 foot body or whatever it is. But he obviously doesn't. He has the doll weight. He doesn't actually have the mass of a grown man. Yeah, so it's a bit of a weird one. But I think they do kind of. I think that's flexible depending on.
Especially as it's the toy hammer. It's not a real hammer. It's the It's the hammer from the Chucky kit.
His birthday present. And just as another thing that made me laugh about that scene, obviously as you said, it's Andy's birthday, and there's the misleadingly large present that when he unwraps is a cardboard box full of clothes. How bad is that? How much is his mum trolling in there? Because he's looking at it thinking, I've got me a good guy doll. I've got the present that I want. And the idea
Wowzers.
and it's a pair of jeans, and he's distraught.
And she doesn't realise that until he's opened it. She's still in the point of view like, he's going to love this. He's going to go mental for these.
It's like, what possessed you to dress it up to make it look like something that it's clearly not?
Yeah, he's clearly obsessed with what are they called? What's the doll actually?
Good guys.
Good guys. He's clearly
so it's the
obsessed.
Good guys. And he is, and the whole premise of Chucky and Child's Play, one of the inspirations for it was the Cabbage Patch doll craze of the 80s, which I think is one of the first kind of big must-have toy crazes that occurred.
So. Yeah.
So it was Don Mancini when he came up with the original story. That was one of the big inspirations for it. And I think in the earlier drafts of the script, that was going to be more of a thing. But apparently, the model that obviously the look they got for Chucky was modelled on another series of dolls called, I think they were called the Buddy Dolls.
Buddy Dolls.
The My Buddy Dolls, which is a real toy line that Child's Play completely ruined, because they made the character look like the My Buddy doll line.
I've seen these before.
Yeah,
that's
and the line never recovered apparently, all because of this.
Once that film came out, they should have been, well, that's it for us. Let's close up shop. We're done.
Hopefully they got some sort of rights from it.
Yeah, I would have been like, we can make a doll that looks just like this, like Chucky. Let us do the merch. let us make the merch for this film. Oh, that's so uncanny.
A little bit savage. But going back to what we were saying about it, the horror elements.
Yeah.
So the first horror element is the killing of Maggie, the babysitter, carking it. The second one is the battery scene.
Yes, that's a great scene.
Which is probably my favourite scene in the film. But yeah, when Karen, it is Karen, isn't it?
Yeah. Thankfully, she's not a Karen, but yeah.
When she basically finds out that her son isn't making it all up and Chucky is real. And the third moment is the end, where spoilers, Chucky's set on fire and he's all melted and bits of him are popping out of air vents and things. I mean, that's kind of real, true horror territory. But that's 3 scenes out of the rest of the movie, which does come across more like a police thriller, really.
For sure. For an hour and 40, I believe it's an hour and 45-minute film. It's not much.
No, it's not, and that was something that surprised me going back to it, because in your head, I mean, there's only 4 deaths in the film. There's only 4 murders in the film.
Maggie, the doctor, his pole partner, who gets eviscerated in the house explosion, and the voodoo priest.
Yeah. So they're the only 4, and I mean, they're all varied. They're all different. But
telling me.
But yeah, it's not a huge body count. And one of them, technically, you don't even really see the gas explosion's a gas explosion. You never see Eddie, I think the character's called.
See, you already touched on loads of points, which is awesome, because it's I have a fair few notes. But the points you've touched on kind of expand my notes to even more, in a way that other things I've just remembered that, like, oh yeah, I wanted to talk about that. When you mentioned about the battery scene, that is a great scene, because of the whole time before that. Why would you believe it's a 6-year-old kid? Why would you believe he's saying, Chucky's talking to me? He told me to go here. He told me this. He told me that. but if your child is coming out with names that are already quite creative, I mean, it's the story name. Charles Lee Ray, a 6-year-old kid coming up with, he said Charles Lee Ray and the word bitch, and you'd even be like, where is Andy getting this from, really? Rather than blowing him off, because he's 6 is really young. I think of stuff like, I mean, it's written like that and it's a cartoon, but The Simpsons, right? Lisa is 8 and Bart is 10, but they do things like adults. They go into town by themselves. So there's a scene in this where Andy, he goes to school and then leaves school with Chucky, and he's on the train by himself. He then goes to the slums by himself, where he goes to the house, which we talked about as well, where Charles Lee Ray's partner gets blown up. But he's 6. He's a kid. He's a baby kid.
He's a
really.
small child.
He's a small child. He's on the train by himself, and not a single person is batting an eyelid that there's a 6-year-old on the train by himself in Chicago. But I mean, the batteries really would be the point where you're like, hang on a minute, this is really bizarre now.
Yeah, I mean, a child's implicated in 2 murders at this point as well, which is she does. Catherine Hicks, who plays Karen, does frazzled really well, because she does think like, oh, I better. Maybe he is telling the truth, and it is at face value. It's nuts that, of course, the doll's not alive. Why am I entertaining this? But if you sit on it for a minute and think, well, at this point now, her best friend's dead, which is, you know, one of the first murder is her best friend Maggie, that happened in her apartment while she was watching her son, and then the second one is some no good Nick Hoodlum on the other side of town, but her son is also implicated in that as well.
He was at the scene of the crime.
It's just, and she picks him up from the police station, and it's at that point that she goes and investigates Chucky. But the way that scene builds is, I think, really well done as well, because we know Chucky can move. We know Chucky's possessed, like, from the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
But obviously it's watching the other characters find out. So first of all, she picks up the box and the batteries fall out, and you go, "Oh, look!" And then she picks up the doll, and checks the compartment, and there's no batteries in the compartment. At which point, Chucky's head swivels round and delivers the "Is it hi, I'm Chucky, want to play" line?
Yeah.
In the recorded style, and you think, "Oh!" And she drops him, and he rolls under the sofa. Yeah. And it's tense,
isn't it?
And you think there's going to be a jump scare. She ducks down and she looks, and you think, right, either she's going to look under the sofa and Chucky's not going to be there, and then he's going to pop out with a knife or whatever, or he's going to, like, move as she reaches for him. And it doesn't happen. And then she starts, like, threatening the doll. Like, "I'll make you talk. If you don't want to talk, I'll make you talk." And at that point, he, like, Charles Lee Ray, like, comes out.
You bitch!
Starts swearing and bites her and escapes. If she'd have left it at that point, actually, they'd have been safe. More or less.
But then we come back to that point again when they're having their tussle. She is the one that's on her back on the floor with Chucky on top of her, and I think he's like biting her neck or whatever.
Yeah,
she's struggling, trying to. So there's strength in the doll. Like, it's not mass. There's not weight, but there's strength. He's able to hold her down. Yeah. Otherwise, I've always thought with a doll, it's like, just kick it, just throw it away. You clearly can't.
No, that's like I say, I think there's a bit of artistic license there, just depending on what the scene calls for. But then I also think, if you sort of put yourself in the character's shoes, a child's doll has just come alive and called her a slut and has bit her. It's like, you maybe would be, it'd get the jump on you, I think. It's fair to say. That you,
all right, fine. All right, I'll back up with that.
But yeah, I mean, it's. I was thinking about it earlier before we come on, and And it did occur to me how it builds in those stages, and just sort of it just makes it into something a little bit extra than just the straightforward. Because it's the creature reveal essentially, isn't it? That scene.
Yeah.
It's the point where everybody, both the audience and the characters, or the main characters in the film, sort of learn the truth and see.
To Karen, because if you think it starts
To
with,
Karen.
Starts with Andy, then Maggie becomes aware for half a second before she jumps out a window in excitement. Then obviously Karen discovers, and then it becomes the cop, and then eventually at the end it becomes this.
Yeah.
So but then you've got to think, how big has this chain got to be for it to become a real life situation with everyone at like the rest of the police station, news reporters? Because who is going to believe the doll is killing people?
I mean, that's a fair point, but a lot happens in daylight, which is unusual for a horror film. Particularly one of this. I mean, I'm thinking maybe some of the sequels aren't quite the same, but there's quite a lot of Chucky moving around in daylight. But I suppose it's just like
small and agile.
I mean, it's the 80s, so not everybody has a smartphone. For starters,
if people aren't going to bat an eyelid at a 6-year-old on the train on his own, why would they bat an eyelid at a doll walking around?
True. I mean, you do have to suspend your disbelief. Obviously.
I guess as well. If you there's the scene later on where Chucky's after Andy in the hospital, and it keeps cutting back to Chucky going up the stairs the other end of the building, and from a distance he looks like a little kid. So you could get away in that sense as well. Just, if he's hiding around the corner and then one person sees it, oh, it's just a little kid. It's okay. So
I mean, I think there were some earlier drafts of the script that were going to have a little bit more of Chucky and Andy interaction, where he'd sort of school him on what to say if anybody questions it, and that sort of thing. Because I think there was some stuff with Andy's dad and Chucky essentially playing the father figure to try and manipulate him.
Andy's dad's never mentioned, right?
No. Again, it's in one of the earlier drafts of the script. It's revealed that he died in a car crash, I think, like a few months before the film takes place. And it was going to be one of, I think there's photographs of him in the background, and none of this stuff was shot. Everything changed, but it was going to be something that Chucky was going to use to manipulate Andy a little bit more, sort of preying on the fact that he misses his dad. But yeah, there was several script changes.
I like the fact that there was no dad in the way, because I can just picture it now. You take the cop out of the question, say till third act, and it is Dad, Karen, and Andy, and the dad is doing the quintessential, "Oh, Andy, just being silly," and then Karen's a bit, "Oh, I don't know. Let's check this out. Let's check the box, the batteries, you know." And the dad, it completely keeps brushing it off. Classic American 80s dad. And the dad dies. Chucky killed the dad, and then we get the cop coming in, and then we get the cop and Karen in the end surviving. I can see how they would have done it, but I quite like how they didn't.
Yeah.
That feels like a very tropey thing to do. I'm glad they didn't put a dad in.
No, I think what they ended up, there was quite a lot that was different in earlier drafts. There was going to be a longer gap before it was revealed what Chucky was doing. So there'd be more, it'd lean more towards, oh, is it Andy that's actually doing this? They were going to drag that out for a little bit longer. One of the earlier drafts was essentially going to be what we ended up with the Child's Play reboot, where
is that not the Chucky show, the Child's Play, the film reboot, where the doll looks completely different, like it's
with Mark, with Mark Hamill voicing Chucky. Chucky was almost like a protector of Andy, and every murder he committed was an antagonist against Andy, so it'd be like a school bully and a bad babysitter and teachers and things like that. I think that was originally one of the ideas. But I'm glad that it changed. I mean, I saw that reboot, and I'm glad that they changed the original.
I can't bring myself to watch that.
It's you're really not missing anything.
No.
That film reminded me a lot more of Toys, the Robin Williams family comedy.
What a
Child's
pull!
Play.
What a pull! Wow, I haven't heard that film in a long time. What if at the end of Child's Play it was Andy all along? You are led to believe it's Chucky. It's Andy. Because for the most part, which I really appreciate, is that they don't show you Chucky for a long. Like they show you maybe a hand reaching over. They show you the shadow. I really appreciate they didn't blow that load instantly, to say it in some sense. And
Sure.
What if it was Andy? Because he's so obsessed with good guy. He wears the outfit.
Yeah,
He's so obsessed, but then he gets this doll finally, and it's. He hears voices from him, but there are no voices. Not possessed. He hears voices. Do this, like kill.
We never hear. Chucky doesn't speak anything until about 45 minutes. It's the battery scene, basically.
And Andy is the one all along. That's same. It could be mentally ill. Hearing the voices from this doll, he kills Maggie.
Mm-hmm.
The doll told him to go to this slum for some reason, and right at the end, it's him. Doll was just a doll.
That would make for a lot better movie, and I love this movie, but that would have been a fantastic twist, and they could have cleverly, sort of done a flashback of the scenes being subtly different with Andy's hand instead of a doll hand turning the gas on. That it would have been absolutely fantastic, but we wouldn't have had the franchise. We wouldn't have got the franchise out of it. But for good or ill, because not everybody's a fan, I appreciate that.
I think what I'm thinking of there is the end of Halloween 4, where spoilers, it ends up being Jamie, basically being the new Michael's niece. She's like the heroine throughout the whole film, and then suddenly at the end, she's standing there with the knife and the mask on, just like at the beginning of Halloween 1, where you're completely led to think she's completely innocent the whole film, and then suddenly. She's evil.
Yeah, and there's a similar thing in Friday 5, isn't there, as well? With
Friday 5 is where Michael's Jason's not even in it.
It's not Jason, it's a copycat. But there's also something with Tommy Jarvis wearing the mask, and it's a long time since I've seen it, so it might be. I don't know if it's a dream.
That was the worst Tommy Jarvis as well.
He's in hospital and keeps seeing Jason, and then at the end he has a mask on.
Yeah, played by the same actor from Nightmare on Elm Street 2, who in both films he's just perpetually sweating and freaking out in both films.
Typecast.
Yeah.
What a thing. What a thing to be typecast as.
Right, where were we?
We just talked.
Were we talking about Chucky?
We've gone off on a tangent and talked about.
Christ.
We were talking about what if it turned out to be Andy and not. And not Chucky.
Speaking of Andy, like I think you mentioned it earlier, I think he's a great little kid actor. Then, Vincent, and I really appreciated his acting at one specific point, where they kept the camera on him at this point, where he's in the hospital and he breaks down because no one will believe him that Chucky's coming, and he breaks down into tears, and it's actually you really feel for him. It's quite emotional.
Yeah, it is. He is a great actor, as you say, and that scene in particular, you do. Yeah, you feel it. It's genuine. It comes across as being genuine. He's genuinely frustrated and upset. He is, but as I did say, he's such a badass. That's what I like about him so much. He's he's straight in there swinging bats, and
Yeah.
as soon as it comes to like the moment where we take the fight back to Chucky, he's straight in there.
Yeah.
Quipping one-liners like he's John McClane. He loves it.
One thing I just realized I didn't check is that with kid actors, but with teens and kid actors, they're normally portrayed by actors that are older than their characters are. For it's something like a high school drama, they're normally mid-20s, early 20s. So if he's 6, how old is Alex? I didn't check this out. Alex Vincent now. I wonder how old he was.
He was 6.
He was actually 6 then.
He was 6. I'm just looking. I jumped the gun a little bit. Just looking.
No, go for it. Yeah.
At his IMDb profile, and it does. Well, he was born April '81, but it says in his bio he first appeared as Andy Barclay when he was a 6-year-old.
Yeah. So you think of production times and the time they really filmed it. That's even more impressive.
Yeah.
For a 6-year-old. My nephew's turning 7 next year, and I couldn't even imagine him trying to portray another character. That's really, really impressive. And I mean, I got a few other bits on the cast. Brad Dourif is just always nails the villain role, in my opinion. You've got from Chucky to Gemini Killer in The Exorcist 3, and also.
Oh right. See, I've not looked, and I was struggling to think of other things that I'd seen him in.
Oh.
Generally.
You must know the next one I'm about to say. Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
I know that one. But that was it. It's like Chucky, Wormtongue.
Yeah.
And I know that he's done more than that, but that's just my ignorance.
Oh, no, that's the same here. Like I don't know his whole line of work, but those are probably the 3 I do know. Exorcist 3. But even as Chucky, he's such a great speaker.
I mean, obvious as Chucky, he's done what, 7 movies?
Yeah.
And 2 series of a TV show.
Isn't his daughter going to be in season 2? I saw that in an article.
Quite possibly, because she's in Cult. Oh, is it Cult of Chucky or Curse of Chucky? She's in one of the movies. One of the later movies.
The only modern one I ever saw was Bride of Chucky, and I believe that was on a sleepover with friends, and their parents rented it out for us.
I like, because that's the comedy, because that's another thing I love about the franchise is that it went horror, comedy, and then the later films it's gone back to its horror roots.
Yeah.
And then I've not seen the series yet, but I believe that's doing quite well as well. Yeah, Fiona Dourif, his daughter, is in.
She plays Charles
Cult.
LeRae. Yeah, she plays Charles LeRae in the Chucky TV series.
Right.
Yeah, so they basically made her up to be like Charles LeRae, like her dad, in the 1980s. Wow. Yeah. If I can find an image. Is it Dourif? Dourif.
Always said Dourif, but I can't say that I claim to know the exact pronunciation.
Welcome to the podcast of ignorance, folks. Just appreciate.
I mean, at the minute, I think we're just reading off IMDb credits to each other. So,
hey,
because I was going to say, Chucky's been in WWE twice, according to this.
Oh, I'm aware of that. But yeah, his daughter is in it. Just a very quick side note: we got our first negative comment on one of the YouTube videos the other day, and I loved it. I loved it. It was.
Oh, I think I saw it.
Did you see it?
You don't. If you don't recognize S Smart, you shouldn't be talking about Evil Dead. I saw it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I had to stop myself from responding. To be honest, I was like, "It's not your fight. Don't get involved." But I was there. I was gonna.
It's your fight now. You're involved.
I was gonna come back with something snarky.
I just replied to it saying, no one's perfect. Still love the series. And then someone defended me saying, there's probably things you're not aware of when it comes to The Evil Dead. That's what fan bases are for, to come together and share things and stuff about Evil Dead that you don't know about.
And to be fair, I think it was T that was saying, "Oh, it's like a Walmart type of thing," which is exactly what
It's the same
S-Mart
thing.
is. It's what S-Mart is. All right, you didn't remember the name of it in the franchise, but he's not wrong, because that's what it is.
No.
So yeah.
So
Yabu and sucks to whoever that guy was.
yes. Anyway, back to the only other person. I mean, the acting for the most part in the film, I thought was all. I didn't really feel like there was any bad performances.
No, the cop partner is a little bit corny, like cheesy 80s wisecracking partner.
You know who he reminded me of?
Is a little bit corny.
He reminded me of Ellis from Die Hard 1.
Yes!
Yeah.
Yes!
And he looked a bit like him as well.
I was trying to think. All the time I was watching it, I was like, he reminds me of somebody, and I should make a note, and I could not bring it to mind. Yes, nailed it.
Hey,
that's exactly who it was.
Hey, John boy.
He's got that level of sleaze.
Such a sleaze bag.
Yeah, 100%. You know he's kind of, because he's playing a cop, you know he's probably on the take. Or
he's on the sniffing as well.
Pinching the hookers' bums as he brings them in.
Oh, what a sleazy douchebag.
Yes. I mean, a really minor character to get fixated on, but yeah, he did definitely have that sort of sleazy 80s vibe.
And I like that at the end.
But he's a good character.
Yeah, at the end he finally understands what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But it annoyed me. The final scene, and we're jumping all over the part, but obviously with this podcast where every episode we talk about a film, it's going to be spoiler central. So apologies there, and hopefully you've seen it so you understand what we're talking about. But the final scene is great when Chucky is all burnt up to a crisp, and when I can never remember his name, the main cop says, "Don't touch it."
Davis.
God, it annoyed me when I'm going to call him Ellis, our douchebag.
Yeah.
He touches Chucky's doll, and he was clearly told, "Don't do it," and he touches him. Oh,
Norris. Norris is the detective Norris.
Well, the other one's a bit of a Norris.
Jack Santos. Is that the character? I think that was the character. Anyway, yeah. He was told not to do it, and he did it.
He was told not to do
Silly
it.
boy.
Silly boy. Oh. But yeah, that final scene, the effects were better than I thought it'd be for the burnt Chucky.
Yeah, I mean the puppetry is fantastic.
Yeah,
it is really good, and I think they had like a mock-up of the apartment with the floors. Like there was just a network of tunnels under the floors, so puppeteers could be anywhere in that set. Something about that, because the puppetry does look really good, but there's kind of when it jumps to the body doubles, the proportions never quite look right. One scene in particular is when Chucky is set on fire and he bursts free and he like jumps over the coffee table or whatever it is. That's I think they used I think there were a couple of child actors that doubled.
Set him on fire.
That doubled for Chucky. I mean, probably not a child actor when they set on fire. It was a short person, but the proportions don't look quite right. You've really got to be looking for it, and I think I was watching it with extra scrutiny because we were going to be talking about it. But yeah, there's a couple of moments like that where there's it's an obvious not a puppet, and the proportions aren't quite the same, but they're not going to be because it's it's not at all.
I appreciate the animatronics were top notch for what it was, and I also appreciate that they didn't go down the route of stop motion, because that could have looked a bit. I want to think things like oh god, I'm mind blanking now. Was the rat monkey in Brain Dead with stop motion? There's some horror films where your little monster or is stop motion, and some stop motion can look good, but sometimes it can look a bit jittery. And I feel like if Chucky was stop motion, because it's a human doll in a way, rather than a monster or creature, it
Mhm.
would look a bit. It wouldn't look right. So I really appreciate they went all the way with full animatronics, especially within the facial
Yeah.
differences, the fingers moving. Even when he's burnt to a crisp, he's just dying, and his fingers are just moving a little bit before he really dies, and those little touches really, really help with it.
Yeah, he does. It does look really good. I mean, there's obviously a marked difference between the sort of good Chucky undercut when he's being a doll compared to when it's a completely different sculpt. They're not just animating the same thing. So I think there was like 2 or 3 different dolls that they used depending on just what was happening in the scene. But it does always look good.
Yeah.
And one, talking of the special effects though, there's one choice that repeated was the weird slow motion. Every time Chucky got shot, they did like a slow motion effect, and he always flies about 20 feet when he gets shot. But
I remember this now, did they?
it happens at least twice. And I wanna say it happened a couple more times, and that's why it stuck with me so much. But the first time, I think the first time is when he's attacking Norris in the car, and the car crashes, and then he shoots him. Then Chucky says something like, "Oh, you can't hurt me," and he shoots him. And there's like, it does this slow motion, like Chucky flying 10 feet back and crashing. And then right at the end, when he gets killed, the same thing happens. And I'm sure it happens. Essentially, it's every time Chucky gets shot, they do this weird slow motion effect, which I don't know why. It seems like just like an odd stylistic choice.
When Karen is shooting Chucky's limbs off, she shoots like a leg and an arm off. I think it happens there as well. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah. And also, we've obviously got the what I like to call the Ghostbusters sky with clouds. It looks very much like at the end of Ghostbusters with the lightning storm and the neon lightning bolt shooting through the roof of the toy store and the apartment building. I mean, that's of the time.
Absolutely explodes that toy store, by the way.
What the fuck was so flammable or explosive in that toy store?
Toys that they were giving to kids in the 80s, all those My Little Ponies and Cabbage Patch dolls. Plastic.
Filled with kerosene and
plastics.
butane. Wait, that toy store, I had a little note about toy stores and how we don't have them anymore, really. How back then, toys. Watch Jingle All the Way at Christmas. Okay, here's a tangent for you folks. Watch Jingle All the Way, and it was all about getting a toy. That toy. The kids now, I'm not really down with the kids. The kids nowadays want a toy, like a doll anymore. Like, it's more about figures and.
I think those things still crop up. I think there's still a toy of the year. Just out of interest.
What was last year? Well, let's find out. Because Toys R Us doesn't exist anymore, really. I think there's a couple in America, but we've got Smith's. Smith's is like the new sort of UK big toy shop. But even, I don't know, back in my day, it was look at the Argos catalogue and look at all the toys sections. And obviously back here in the 80s, toys, it was just big toy shops like this.
There was a big push for Buzz Lightyear when the first Toy Store. The Buzz Lightyear was like the must-have toy for a couple of years. It was Squishmallows last year, apparently.
Oh, I thought it was. Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah. Enlighten us. What are Squishmallows?
They are plush toys.
Oh yeah.
That they have a very sort of kawaii kind of look to them. I think they're generally animals.
Okay.
But there's a picture of a strawberry one here. So yeah, they're kind of little, and they're very soft. They are very like marshmallows. They're very soft and squidgy. Well, my girlfriend has one, so I'm aware of what they are.
Oh, here we go. Well, don't I feel out of touch?
I think I bought it for her actually. Before I realised what.
It's all coming back to you now.
Yeah, they're kind of like a Beanie Baby type thing, I think.
But you mentioned about the Cabbage Patch Kids as well, and like the design of Chucky, which again is potentially a not rip but similar to the real life doll.
Mm-hmm.
Were dolls back then just really creepy looking, or is it just creepy to us? Because the proportions of it, big head, little eyes, little mouth.
I mean, yeah, I mean,
about
Chucky does have a look. Obviously, it was modelled on this other line, but the Cabbage Patch dolls aren't too far off.
No, they are big heads with tiny eyes, I believe.
Chubby cheeks and that whole sort of aesthetic.
Yeah,
but I do wonder: are they creepy to us because of films like Child's Play, or are they just creepy? I don't know.
Good point. Yeah, because I think a lot of people reference. I think Child's Play has become a big reference thing where. I don't know. You could be someone else. Your grandparents' house, and they've got an old timey Annabelle sort of doll. From the film, Annabelle sort of a porcelain doll, whatever you call it. But the first thing people will go to is it's like, oh, it's going to come alive like the doll Chucky.
I think Chucky, because it's a test of time thing, though, isn't it? Chucky's bigger in pop culture and has been around for longer than Annabelle. And
marionette doll. Sorry, it just came to me. Marionette dolls. That's it. Yeah.
and is probably, although what other killer dolls are there? Because Annabelle's not actually a killer doll in the sense that Chucky is.
I've never seen it.
Neither have I.
That's fine. That's fine. And I don't think I will for a long time.
No.
Well, the one Megan has I believe it's just come out, and it's doing really well.
I'm interested to see it. Yeah.
I am now after seeing this, because my perception of the quote unquote killer doll has changed after watching this because of some of the things we talked about. How, if he's got the strength, okay, it's quite scary. He's little. He could be perceived as a kid. There are some aspects there that, oh shit, he can get around and he can do some damage. It's not just kick the doll away. So my perception has changed quite a lot, and like I said, I'm quite interested in this Megan, because I think it's more of a modern take. It's more about the AI inside.
It
of
is,
the doll
yeah,
itself.
and sort of and like, as I think does work like the Child's Play reboot, in that it is sort of this programmable AI companion that takes protecting their owner to the extreme, which is the vibe. I might be wrong, but that's the kind of vibe I got from the Megan trailer.
Yeah, that goes hand. I guess it's exactly what you said about the Child's Play.
Whereas Chucky is a serial killer that happens to inhabit a doll's body, so it's a slightly different thing. But there aren't any other killer dolls really in big. I mean, there are
off the spot. I really can't. I do remember when I first ever saw that.
I mean, there must be. But
when I first saw the Saw trailer, the first trailer for the first Saw film, and it's Billy, right? Is the doll. I mean, I was quite young, having maybe 14, 15, mid-teens. I thought that doll was the killer.
Same. I thought that's what, because that's how pretty sure that's how that trailer presented it.
Yeah.
As Billy being a lot more of a character than perhaps he is. And I thought it was going to be another living doll kind of a situation.
I generally can't think on the spot right now of another, like you said, killer doll. Actual
killer. There will be. Of course there will
100%,
be. But Chucky is the gold standard, the one that everybody thinks of first. He's certainly the most iconic. Yeah.
I look forward to the comments going, excuse me, actually, I think you'll find there was this one in the 19...
Well, please enlighten us.
Yes, please do.
I think there's a Twilight Zone episode about a doll. And I'm sure, like I say, I'm sure there will be killer dolls elsewhere. But...
There's a doll on the side of the plane. Yes, do enlighten us.
It's not Chucky, but yeah, sure. If there are, but yeah, I agree. There will be people screaming at their computers now. You two idiots don't know anything.
We're talking a lot about Chucky. I got a couple more notes on Chucky itself, and I had to keep this in my notes because I thought it was quite funny. So I did my notes as I was watching it, so on the phone. I put a note. Speaking of soul I'm going to read this word for word. Speaking of soul transferring, I think I'd have actually like a bit of backstory behind how the fuck he could do it. I mean, come on. Next note. Oh, okay. We get this backstory on the voodoo priest. Okay, shut me up. Because I couldn't remember the film. I hadn't seen it in forever. And from what I remember there was no backstory, but there is a little bit of exposition in the middle with John. I think his name's John. I didn't get his last name, but he's affiliate of Charles Lee Ray, who taught him this soul transferring spell.
I think he's credited as John Stroke Dr. Death.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, the dude works with voodoo. Has a little voodoo doll of himself.
I mean, there's a bunch of deleted scenes which I don't think have ever been released anywhere. But there was supposed to be like a scene showing him actually conducting a voodoo ritual and some stuff that would have expanded on it a little bit more.
I think I would have liked that.
But I think it changes in later films. Particularly Bride of Chucky, all of a sudden there's a magic amulet which never appears up until...
Of course there is.
Bride of Chucky. So,
and where did this amulet come from?
Yeah, they did sort of retcon stuff a little bit.
The other thing added on with this curse or soul transferring that Chucky finds out is that he can transfer his soul to the first person he spoke to in the form of Charles Lee Ray, which was Andy, and he gets excited the fact I'm gonna be a 6-year-old kid. This is great. See ya, John. which helps the plot go along. Whereas this is now his new objective. He's got to kill Andy to get back to how he was.
Yeah, it does, and again, I think that's something that disappears in later sequels, but we're not talking about the sequels, we're talking about the first film. Yeah, I mean, if that hadn't have suddenly been a factor, then Andy and his mum are safe because Chucky's out doing his thing elsewhere. But yeah, that brings them back into the plot.
It's really quite an important bit. Actually, when you think about it, because Chucky would just go off, I guess, killing, and he don't really do bank robberies. Isn't he called Strangler or something?
He's the Lakeshore Strangler.
That's it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think he attempts to strangle the cop in the car, but apart from that, it's mostly guns and gas explosions and knives. Yeah, there's not a lot of actually. But I suppose he's got littler hands, hasn't he, when he's a doll?
It's harder to. Yeah. Well, he can apparently wield it's like a kitchen knife when he's in the car trying to kill the cop. It's trying to stab him through the back of the chair.
Yeah, there's far. I don't know why he's not swinging it over the top. Why does he suddenly decide he's gonna stab him through the chair?
That scene did really annoy me, though. That is a scene that happens far too often in films where, okay, it's a film. I know it's not real. We're talking about everything we've talked about. Obviously, it doesn't matter. We're doing a horror podcast. It doesn't matter. Just put your foot on the brake. Why are you still driving?
Yeah, there's no need for him to carry on driving. Yeah, I had the same. I struggle. I must admit, I struggle to find criticisms because I do like the movie a lot, and
you don't have many.
There's not really a lot to criticize, but that was one. It was like, why are you still driving?
It gives an action scene, doesn't it?
But it does give an action, yeah.
And they get a nice little flip at the end of the car. So.
And it just thinks of, we've got some money to flip a car, let's flip a car.
Yeah, only one flip though. We can't do too much because we might have to do the take again. So yeah. But
yeah, it's Yeah, it is. It is a silly scene.
Yeah, but there's not many, like you said, about criticisms in the film. It's a solid film. Scary. That's up to your opinion, but my personal opinion, not. But as a film as a whole, it's got the solid acting. It leaves you in suspense. You don't see Chucky for a long time, like we said. It's not too gory. It's not gory. It's not a gory film.
No, not especially. I
The
mean,
goriest kill is the doctor, probably.
The doctor, maybe John, with the voodoo doll and the limb snapping, and then we find Well, he stabs the doll, doesn't he? And he suffers the wound. He never actually gets stabbed, but when we find him again, he's covered in blood. But yeah, it's not as certainly. I mean, I keep chewing talking the sequels in there.
Oh, it's fine.
There are far gorier kills in the sequels, particularly when you get to Bride, I think, and there's improv nail bombs going off in people's faces and
I remember
by
that
semi trucks and stuff like that. There's a lot more, and I think it's Seed of Chucky. Somebody gets melted in acid as well, which is very gory. But
they probably knew that they weren't getting cinema release. They weren't getting theatre releases, so they thought.
I think they did.
Did they?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm sure they
man.
did. Bride of Chucky definitely did. Because I remember seeing the trailers all over I was in. We had a family holiday to Florida, and it was filmed at Universal Studios, and I remember seeing the trailers all over the TV while we were in the States. So I'm pretty sure they've all had a cinema release.
Obviously, the first three I would have thought would have done, but I don't know. I if they did, I mean, that's great for the franchise. A lot of those sort of franchises. I mean, this is what 7 films on. They will, for the most part, won't survive a whole franchise going to the cinema. Something like Saw will.
Maybe the later ones have only had short releases, but I think that's kind of common for films generally anyway. Now they don't have long runs in the cinema and streaming platforms and stuff.
What was the budget for the first Child's Play film? I didn't get that. Here we go. We've got a budget of 9 to 13 million. That's quite a lot.
That is quite a lot.
And it probably went into the animatronics and all that, the effects. And it made 44 million. So that's quite a lot profit. Okay, so it was really successful. I actually had no idea how successful that was. 1988,
I think generally it is. There's a big fan base for it, and it's well received, and a lot of people like it.
I guess for the most part as well, it was successful because, like we said, how many Killer Doll films were before this, or how fresh of an idea was this?
I mean, even since Chucky's, I mean, slashers. There's a lot of slashers out there, and there's a smaller number of them that have become as iconic as Jason, Michael Myers, but there are a lot of films that have some sort of mass maniac killing teenagers. There's a lot of those films about. There's not a lot of films about a doll slashing people up.
No, and the only one that kind of came to my mind just quickly was Puppet Master and Demonic Boys.
Puppet Master, and I think there's quite a few sequels for that as well.
Yeah, I think there's like 9. I might be completely wrong here, but there's a lot. There's more than Child's Play.
Yeah, and probably suffer in quality, I think, as the series goes on. I think I've only seen a couple of those, and I don't think they're great. But you're right. I think in terms of actual killer dolls, it's Child's Play and Puppet Master, and that's probably a lot for well-known ones.
Did you know something I didn't realise until I was doing some research for this, and I'm quite ashamed in myself for not knowing this, who the director of this film was?
Tom Holland.
Yeah, who directed Fright Night. I had no idea he also did this as well.
Sorry, something's just occurred to me, but by all means, finish what you were saying.
The only other thing I was going to say about Tom Holland, great director, and I forgot he was in Psycho 2, which is a fantastic sequel, folks. Go watch Psycho 2.
I was watching, just to go off on another tangent, I was watching Ellie Roth's History of Horror, the first episode of the 3rd series, which is about good sequels, and talks at length about Psycho 2. And funnily enough, just to bring it back to what we're talking about, Brad Chucky as well. Are both featured in that episode.
That episode is with Tarantino, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, I've heard that because I've listened to that on the podcast. It's a great episode. Wouldn't normally push other podcasts, but go listen to Eli Roth's History of Horror.
It is brilliant.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. Other people that were apparently in the running to voice Chucky.
Yep.
John Lithgow.
Now, I always thought, this kind of ties in with Jennifer, I always thought Stewie from Family Guy was voiced by John Lithgow. When I first started watching Family Guy, I thought it was John Lithgow, because John Lithgow he can talk a bit high and posh at times. He does in Cliffhanger, I think.
Okay.
Carry on. I'm talking crazy. Go.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was kind of shocked. I was like, John, I did not know this, and well, this is pulled off, IMDb. So
yeah, take it with a bit grain of salt, folks.
Yeah.
John Lithgow voice.
But if he played Chucky as Dick Solomon from Third Rock from the Sun.
Now we're talking. That's
brilliant.
Great show. Another good pull.
Also, apparently, Gary Oldman.
I mean, the man's got the most range out of Hollywood, so
was down to do it as well. I mean, like I say, I've not verified this from other sources, but very interesting if it's true, and would change things hugely. I also found out today as well that John Lithgow was down to play the Joker in Tim Burton's Batman, or he was offered the part, I think.
Instead of Nicholson.
Mm.
I'm trying to envision. Well, now I'm trying to envision Lithgow as Joker. It's quite hard when all you can think of is Nicholson because you've got that image in your head.
It's
but
always hard to
Lithgow's voice as Chucky, it might have worked, but then you'd have to have done the real life scene, like at the beginning. The chase between Charles the Ray and the cop into the toy store. Would that have worked with John Lithgow?
I mean, I'm inclined to say not. Like, he doesn't look like a strangler to me.
Well, who does? Who does?
Yeah, but Brad Dourif pulls off kind of sleazy.
You saying Brad Dourif looks like a strangler?
He does in Child's Play with his long straggly hair and his overcoat. He does come across as being. He looks the part better, I think, than John Lithgow. But I can't. I've never seen John Lithgow play a part like anything really approaching a murderer. So,
well, have you seen Cliffhanger?
I mean, there's Cliffhanger. Yeah,
I'm just looking at now. So that was 93, and yeah, I mean,
I've not seen that film in such a long time. I've probably not seen it since 94.
I'll send you a picture on Discord. Right, there's our John Lithgow in Cliffhanger. I mean, looks like a dad.
He is. I mean, he could just be on that radio asking for Dr. Mary Albright, or it's just he's Dick Solomon to me. That's all he is, and Farquaad from Shrek as well, I guess. But
this is some of you may die, or some of you, but I will live happily. uh, yeah,
But yeah, I can't imagine him as or anybody else as the voice of Chucky. But that's because I've never experienced anybody else as the voice of Chucky, and it's difficult to mentally retcon these things, isn't it? It doesn't matter if it's an established character. You just can't imagine anybody else but that person playing it.
and it works. Works. That's another just positive of Brad Dourif because we say, oh, he looks like a strangler, but the guy's got such a great.
I mean, all due
face.
respect if he's listening.
I'm sure he is. I'm sure that's his burner account on the Evil Dead video.
Yeah.
With that comment, in all due respect, dude has a great face that could could play a villain well, which he does. He doesn't have to show his face for much in this film. He has to do his acting vocally, and he does that really well in the Evil Way. So he's got the face and the vocal. He's a double hitter here.
Yeah, I mean, he recorded his voice lines first, and they matched the animatronics to his delivery. Is the way that they did it, which makes.
I thought they were quite good. I thought the lip syncing was quite good on the doll.
So I suppose to a certain degree, it's. I mean, it's like almost like motion capture, but obviously several steps removed. But they've presumably seen footage of him giving the vocal performance and matched the puppet, matched the doll to him. So, for all intents and purposes, it is him playing the role.
Like he must have not a passion, but he must be into this character and really enjoy it, because I always said about how the franchise goes on and on and on. Sometimes the films go to video on demand and they get worse and worse, and he has stayed true to this, really. So he must enjoy this character. He must like it enough to just keep coming back and back and back.
I guess, I mean, it's probably a lot of fucking fun.
Yeah.
Like,
I
just
would have thought so.
Straight up, I imagine it's a lot of fun to play it. Because he gets to just be nasty, but kind of funny as well. Like I say, there's a little bit of like the Freddy Krueger vibe to Chucky, where before he gets too silly, there's that sort of nice, what's the word, balance between
playing with his food.
Scary and funny.
Yeah.
And quips and one-liners and things like that. So I imagine it is quite fun to play. And a well-loved character, and
really is. It really is. I mean, do we know what the kill count is from Chucky? Because the highest kill counts, I believe, are probably Michael and Jason. And when we were talking, I think we were talking about slashers a while back, and because I got a new shirt for Christmas. The new shirt it was the Mystery Machine from Scooby-Doo with all the classic slashers riding in it, and Chucky was in it. And I'm looking at it going, yeah, for the most part, they're all high kill count slashers. But then Pinhead isn't really a slasher. Pinhead doesn't really kill people. He's just an iconic figure from the same sort of time period. But Chucky as well, we 4 kills. It's not that much.
4 kills in the first film, but as from a Screen Rant article last August, 67 people total.
Wow. So that got ramped up.
So that's up there. Isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really high actually. Higher than I thought it would be. 7 films, 67. That should nearly be, if you did an average, nearly 10 kills a film. So if you take only 4 in the first, that means that's potentially a group gets wiped out in at least one film. We'll call it a group, more than say 3 people, because that's more than 10 kills a film, or a significant amount in one film and then a couple in another. But that's a lot higher than I thought it would be.
Yeah, it is. Especially like I say, given that it's only 4 in the first one, which I thought was which was a lot lower than I remembered. In my head, there was twice that many kills, but yeah, no, only 4.
At one point, I genuinely thought we were going to get a homage, to Halloween. There's one particular scene in the apartment, and Andy he's hiding. He hides in a cupboard, but the cupboard has slatted doors.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And the shot is the same angle as when Laurie she's sat on the floor, doors. She's looking up at the doors, and again, I don't remember this film, but I was kind of just hoping Chucky to bash through the slats, and then Andy pick up a coat hanger, untwist it, and stick him in the eye.
I mean, he could have done. Obviously, he'd have bashed through at a much lower level.
Yeah, it would have looked a bit goofy if he was about 5 foot up. It's like someone holding the doll.
In fact, that was the height. His height was one of the features of a trailer for Bride of Chucky that I saw when I was, when I was in the States. And it was sort of a height marking on a door, like you do when you're a kid.
Oh yeah,
like
yeah.
Your dad marks it off. So it was like Jason at 6'7" or whatever, and then Freddy Krueger at something, and then the camera like really goes down to the bottom, and it's Chucky 3 foot whatever, and then the arm with the knife comes through the door.
That's cool.
It was a cool ad. I'm gonna see if I can find it later because. Only saw it the once like 20-something years ago. So
who's taller, Leprechaun or Chucky? Warwick Davis or Chucky? Probably Chucky.
I'm gonna say Chucky. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Chucky, but I'm also gonna find out.
I hadn't really got much more, really. I think we've pretty much gone through a lot of what I've personally noted there.
Yeah, same. I mean, shout out to the breakfast in bed that Andy makes at the beginning.
Yes, that's what I was just about to bring up. I wrote that is the scariest part of the film.
It's terrible, isn't it? The cricket ball sized spoon of ladle worth of butter.
And then as he's taking it, the milk and kilos of sugar that he scooped into the bowl is sloshing around in the tray.
Yeah, like to go back to what we said about him being a switched on, like capable kid. Yeah. He's got no fucking idea how to make a breakfast.
Thank God he doesn't have to use the stove.
Kitchen skills have a few years of development to come.
Bless him, though. I mean, the Karen, she takes it. I'll eat it later.
Yeah,
she does it well, but oof. At first I thought it was ice cream, and no, that has to be just dirty lard, just dollop. Yeah, the scariest part of that film was Scariest part of this film is the breakfast Andy makes.
Yeah, the cholesterol potential.
God.
Yeah, there's like a heart attack.
I think the only other things I've really got, really side note, but with Maggie's death, when Karen arrives at the flat, and she all she wants is Andy first to make sure Andy's fine, and then it's where the fuck's Maggie? She's quite distraught. The officer's trying to calm her down, and she's just, can you guys just leave? Can you guys just go? Would the police officers really just be, okay, guys, let's wrap it up, let's go, at a crime scene? Or would they surely have protocol, right?
I mean, probably not. Probably not. I guess on the one hand, you could argue that they're kind of at the end of the investigation anyway, but by the same token, she is just arriving at an active crime scene that's also a house.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It's a difficult one to call. I suppose Detective Morris or Norris, whatever his name is, I suppose he hangs out a little bit longer. And
by me saying that, obviously, yeah, it's a film again, and everything we're questioning. This film doesn't have to be so realistic because it's about a fucking killer doll, okay? But there's always a few things like that I'm like, could you just try and make situations like that a little bit more realistic, like with the police? Just ground it in reality just a little bit more, rather than, all right, guys, let's go. The woman's being hysterical. Let's leave her alone. Come on.
I guess a lot of it's pacing. They kind of just want to get on with the story.
Yeah.
But it's difficult to say. Just on a side note, Warwick Davis is taller than Chucky by 5 inches.
Damn it!
3'6" versus 3'1". So yeah, the leprechaun. It must be the hat. Just top sight there.
It's full of his gold and his lucky charms. The last things I had, there's another thing that, again, another grounded in reality, I guess. Note: if you really don't believe your kid, and the kid is persistent with, the doll was talking to me, the doll told me to do this. And I feel like a parent would start to get frustrated with their kid. Sort of like if a kid was going, why? Would the parent not just take the doll away from the kid to sort of teach the kid a lesson? Like, oh, you're punished. I'm taking the doll away for an hour or two. Now you're gonna have time out without the doll.
You'd think so, and that's something that certainly happens in the sequels. I think in like near enough all the sequels, as soon as somebody starts blaming Chucky gets like locked in a cupboard or thrown in the cellar or taken out of the equation, only for him to obviously escape and return.
Obviously, but that's the right thing to do, I think.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Karen's a hardworking single mum. She's doing her best. I guess you've just got to cut her a little bit of slack. But I don't know. It's
not cutting her any slack for buying him those trousers at the beginning.
And he made a breakfast in bed as well.
Exactly. He does all that work, and she's like, trousers? Huh? That's what you wanted, wasn't it?
Yeah. Packaged like Amazon years before Amazon was a thing.
Yeah.
Huge, colossal box.
And he's there like with all these signs saying, I want a doll. I love good guys. And she oblivious to it. He wants trousers, I think he wants trousers. He keeps telling me he wants trousers.
There is one thing in that scene actually that I thought was, again, nitpicking, but
go on.
It's just as he's making the breakfast, or just before he makes the breakfast, there is an episode of the Good Guys cartoon.
It's terrifying.
And he goes, "Oh, I've seen this one already." Now, I was like, at that age, I used to watch rerun of you know what I mean? Yeah. So that my parents used to go mad that we were watching the same. I've seen this one. Even I've seen this one. So you must have seen this one.
Yeah, why
matter
would
that
you
you'd seen it before.
Twice?
You used to watch the same thing all the time.
But still, everyone watches rerun.
And still, yeah.
If you enjoy something, you'll watch it again and again. And especially as a kid, the kid attention span, they'll probably want to watch stuff again.
Yeah.
How many
times? I thought that was unrealistic. It's like, there's no way your favourite cartoon's on as 6-year-old and you're bothered that it's one you've never seen, that you've seen before. So he's
a mega fan. Why would he'd want to watch any episode multiple times, surely?
But on the subject of the Good Guys whole sort of phenomenon, how weird was it? I mean, we only see a snippet of it anyway.
Really weird.
But it's supposed to be this sort of like almost Care Bears-esque, like friends till the end, and but then they've got guns and swords and like the imprints of these weapons on
their shoe.
What does he call them? They're Good Guys weapons sleeper socks or something like that. Sneaker socks or something they're called. And they've literally just got like there's a Mac 10 on and a machete like imprinted on the bottom.
Yeah. It's when the officer he's
because he sees
check the shoe print
in the flower.
And there's a hammer, there's a saw, and there's a gun. What?
It's like, what is this? Even for the 80s, that's like a bit much for a kid's cartoon to just be like packing heat like that.
That's America for you. I'm going to put that on America as a whole. That one. I've got one last note, and this is back to this kind of works well. This is back to the final scene. The final scene's great. The fight around the apartment. I think Karen and Andy get trapped in the bathroom, and Chucky is outside, burnt to a crisp, stabbing the door, trying to get to them. But before he gets that, when he gets burnt, I'm not pyrotechnic. I'm not really in the know of how fire properly works. He gets burnt in the fireplace, and then, like you said, him or a child actor or a short person is climbing over the couch, still on fire. Nothing else catches on fire.
No.
How does fire work?
Especially as you know full well that carpet and furniture is like 90% polyester. It's just waiting to go up. Yeah, I don't know.
Not a single thing catches fire, and especially when he then collapses, he's laying there. So it's not even a moving object; it's a stationary object on the carpet on fire, and it doesn't spread.
Yeah, no.
Who knows?
It's a Christmas miracle.
Is there a Christmas theme? Is there a Christmas theme in any of the Chucky films? No. Okay.
No. It's his birthday, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm curious. Like, do you remember Child's Play 2 at all?
Yes. It's a while since I've watched it, but I can vaguely remember the broad strokes of the plot.
I've never seen it, but I've never seen. I only ever saw Child's Play this years and years ago, and then Bride of Chucky Sleepover. I never saw the others. How the hell? I'm happy to be spoiled by this. How the hell does he come back?
Well,
spoilers.
He is. So the second one opens up with executives at the Good Guy toy factory basically talking about how there'd been this court case because one of their dolls went rogue, and the programming went haywire, or Andy's mental. They kind of blame him both, but essentially they come back into possession of the Chucky doll because they're testing to see what went wrong. And it gets melted down and put back through the machine and recycled into a new doll. They're trying to relaunch the Good Guy doll brand by
so dumb
recycling. So essentially, that's what. So the first one off the factory line is Chucky recycled, basically.
But we were told if he was shot in the heart, he'd die.
Yeah, but he's also incorporated into the plastic. Apparently, I don't know. It's a stretch, but that's how it happens.
And that's just the first sequel. We've then got how does he come back in Child's Play 3? Because I don't know. Do any of the films end where he doesn't die? Do we know?
I'm just trying to think what happens at the end of 3.
Because it's got to be hard.
I can't remember how he comes back in 3.
It's got to be hard in a franchise like that to always try to bring back your killer. Like Jason, he after part 6, you could do anything because he's a fucking monster. Michael's a tough one because he gets shot. I mean, he is evil incarnate. He gets shot 5 times at the end of 1. He gets blasted at the beginning of 4, 5, I think. Like, Chucky is a doll. How do you span that over?
There's the weird like recycling, melting him down and recasting him in the second one. I can't remember how he comes back in the third, but after that it's essentially voodoo. He's just reanimated by voodoo every time somebody, one way or another.
Well, we have voodoo in this film, so it's not too far.
I mean, that they do keep that theme broadly as the series goes on.
Yeah, it's fair enough. If you introduce it at least in this film, rather than shoehorning it into a sequel saying he's been brought back by voodoo. Where did that come from? Okay, we've already established there's voodoo in the first film. We can use it again.
Yeah.
Do you have any other points you want to?
No, I think that about covers everything. I did have one note that just says voodoo.
Yep, tick that one off. Yeah.
But I think, yeah, no, I think we've pretty much covered everything.
Yeah. I think we've done really well. I think we've gone into the guts of it, and yeah.
Nice.
Good pick, sir, for your debut episode.
Yeah, well, I might jump on and watch the sequels over the next couple of weeks just to give them another airing. Good stuff.
Doing this podcast has really made me. I haven't got around to doing it, but I think there's so many now sequels I want to see. I've only seen, like, for instance, we were going to do Hellraiser, the original one, after we did the reboot. We never got around to it. But then I thought, oh god, there's so many of the sequels I wanted to see. I've seen 1, 2, 3, and Inferno, but I never saw the one in space. I never saw the awful reboot without Doug Bradley.
I've never seen any of those ones. And
now with this, I want to go and try and see all the Child's Play sequels as well. So doing this, yeah, it's pumping up the horror passion, which is great.
There's some good moments. One thing I like about Child's Play, particularly, the kills. Very inventive. It's got that kind of Friday the 13th sort of every kill has to be different vibe to it. So there's some fun, inventive ones.
Oh yeah, speaking of the kills, actually, that was one last thing I wanted to mention. The kill of the doctor, the psychiatrist doctor that is looking after Andy. That's probably the most creative one because the doctor is trying to restrain Andy. He's just about to inject like an anesthetic or whatever, a numbing medicine into him.
Some sort of sedative.
Sedative, that's the numbing medicine. Sedative. I'm very tired now. Numbing medicine.
It's the same. You know,
it's the same thing. And Chucky, I think he slashes his Achilles or the back of his leg.
Yeah.
And as he falls, he puts on this, I don't know what it is, contraption that goes round your head and then fries it. It's like electrodes. Like
a shock therapy sort of piece of equipment or something like that, I think it's supposed to be.
And it fries him big time. The camera keeps cutting back from Andy to the doctor. And every time we cut back to the doctor, he's a little bit more roasted. The blood dripping from his eyes and his mouth. And it just gets worse and worse every time the camera keeps panning back. That was a really cool kill. So if you're saying they get as creative as that or more, then I'm down.
There's some good creative kills, and is it just on as a side, a little interesting note? Oh yeah, Seed of Chucky has one of the former S Club 7 members in there. Hannah Spirit is randomly in that one. I think she gets set on fire and thrown over a balcony.
You have my attention, sir.
It's worth watching just for that.
I was more of a Rachel man, but Hannah, I can go watch that film now.
I think she plays the PA of Jennifer Tilly, who's in it playing herself, I think.
I do love Jennifer Tilly. She's fantastic.
She is a lot of fun, and obviously huge fan of the franchise, being part of it herself.
Speaking of a lot of fun, this has been great fun. And
it's been a blast.
Thoroughly glad you came on to do this and picked a great film, and I've had a great time. So thank you for co-hosting.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you for having me.
I'm sure one of many. I'm very sure one of many. I have plans for you. I have plans for you, sir. I have plans for you.
Yeah, look forward to it.
But yes, again, folks, if you've made it this far, thank you for making it this far on the episode. This is Aidan. Find him at Aidan Half Troll on Twitter. It is beneath his window there. Anything else you want to plug?
No, because I'm kind of inactive at the minute. I'm hoping to get back to doing some streaming on Twitch. I do have a Twitch channel.
I've been saying that for months.
I know. Time and busy, and I've got, but I do. I am looking to get back and do a little bit of streaming. So watch this space, I guess.
It's Aidan Half Troll on Twitch, so go follow him on there anyway. So
yeah, I'm Aidan Half Troll on everything. I'm on.
Yeah, it's easy enough. Okay, well, you can find this podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, Podbean, YouTube. Yep, that was all of them, all by searching the Dreadcast. And you can find us on Instagram at the _Dreadcast. I have to get that right. And I believe the TikTok, I don't know what he is doing with the TikTok, but you can go there if you want. I'm not really sure what's going on with it, but follow it anyway. And I believe that is where we are everywhere. Next time, you're joining us again next week, aren't you? I assume.
Yes. I think
Beautiful. Because we will be doing a nice little POV film. And just a nice little one, a really nice little POV film from 1980. Sadly, the director passed away a couple of weeks back. The film being in question, The Cannibal Holocaust. A lovely film for the family. So we'll be discussing all the fun and just of that film. Just yeah, it's not. It's a very unpleasant film if you've never seen it, folks. But it's a very iconic film. It's a very important film for the genre. So yeah, stay tuned. Go check out the on the YouTube channel of the Dreadcast. There is a Evil Dead Rise trailer breakdown, and there will be another trailer breakdown coming soon. So go check that out, which myself and Aidan just did before the recording. So yeah, I think that's everything. I think that's it. So yeah, once again, thank you, Aidan. Thank you everyone for listening. And say we'll see. And until next time.
And until next time,
stay spooky. That's what T normally does.